Tonight in 9 News, Texas terror. At least 19 innocent children and 2 teachers murdered in a primary school shooting. America's shame. Millions across the US and the world tonight asking, when does the horror end? Also, the man arrested over the brutal Dreamtime bashing was hired to perform in the pre-match. A beloved cavoodle mauled to death and his minder seriously injured by road pit bulls in Jacana. Dying on a trolley, a grieving widow's heartbreaking experience of our hospital crisis. And a greedy wedding crasher caught red-handed after stealing from newlyweds across the city.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Peter Hitchener.
Good evening. 19 children won't be coming home from school tonight, shot and killed inside their Texas classroom. 2 of their teachers dying trying to protect them. The massacre carried out by a local teenager, sparking rage and disbelief that so little is being done about gun violence in America. Sophie Walsh begins our coverage.
Panicked parents run towards Robb Elementary School. Terrified and desperate.
10. My name is McKenna.
How long have you been looking for her today?
Since it happened.
What are you worried about right now?
She may not be alive.
They're dying as, I guess, they're working on them. I'm just praying that my little one is okay.
These are the little ones who have lost their lives. This girl named on the class honour roll earlier today. Tonight, her parents are in mourning.
Just confused and worried. I'm trying to find out where my baby's at.
And 2 teachers, Eva Moreles, who had worked for the school district for 17 years, and Irma Garcia, both died trying to protect their students.
When parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends.
Moments before the horror began, the gunman can be seen here stalking the school building. 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, a local high school student, he regularly posted photos of guns on social media, recently tagging a stranger and hinting that he had a secret.
There was some social media interaction, some threats that, kids should watch out.
Officials say he bought 2 assault rifles for his 18th birthday. Earlier in the day, Ramos shot his grandmother. She was airlifted to hospital. He then drove to the school, crashing his pickup truck.
He abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle.
Carrying out his massacre inside a classroom. Border Patrol agents responded. There was a shootout. Ramos was killed. Parents gathered nearby for a sickening wait.
I'm looking for my daughter. I mean, after the shooting, they don't know where she's at. I mean, the list, her name is not here.
Students were only 2 days away from their summer break. Now another American community is grieving.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
A nation once more despairing.
I'd hoped when I became president I would not have to do this again. Another massacre.
And the world watching in disbelief.
I speak for the government, and I think I speak for every Australian when I say our hearts go out to you who've been impacted by this, the families of those beautiful little kids and their teacher, the souls lost to another senseless act of gun violence in the United States.
US President Joe Biden drawing on his own personal loss to console shattered families.
Parents who will never see their child again, never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away.
It's the deadliest school shooting since the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012, when 20 children aged 6 and 7 were murdered in Connecticut. Joe Biden was vice president then. A decade on, the nation's gun culture remains unchanged.
Why are we willing to live with this carnage?
Why do we keep letting this happen?
A question all Americans will be asking tonight, none more so than the parents who took their children to school this morning, not knowing they would never hug them again. In Uvalde, Texas, Sophie Walsh, 9 News.
Today's tragedy has reignited America's gun control debate with impassioned calls for lawmakers to finally act and prevent any more senseless deaths. US correspondent Amelia Adams.
In the chamber where gun laws are debated and decided.
I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here.
A senator desperately pleads for reform.
This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day.
Giving voice to the anger and grief felt across a divided nation in the wake of yet another school shooting.
People said that after Sandy Hook that would be rock bottom, and yet here we are again. I don't know how much more our country can take.
The last 10 days we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something?
In 2022, there have already been 27 school shootings resulting in injury or death. It's been 4 years since Parkland, nearly a decade since Sandy Hook, and more than 20 years since Columbine. In that time, more than 370 people have been shot and killed on a primary or high school campus.
What struck me was these kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world. Why?
In 2020, more than 45,000 people were killed by a gun in the United States. By 2021, there was a 52% increase in the number of active shooter incidents.
Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it and stand up to the lobbies?
One of the most powerful lobbies, the National Rifle Association, is scheduled to hold its annual meeting in just 72 hours in Houston, Texas, only 4.5 hours away from Robb Elementary School. Donald Trump is due to speak alongside Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Senator Ted Cruz, who was today quick to offer his prayers before defending his politics.
You see Democrats and a lot of folks in the media whose immediate solution is to try to restrict the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. That doesn't work.
He's seen here in a campaign video showing off the exact same weapon used by today's shooter. Texas has some of the most lenient firearm laws in the country. Last year, Governor Abbott scrapped licences for handguns, allowing virtually anyone over the age of 21 to obtain one without a background check or training. The state's Attorney General today arguing for more firearms.
We can potentially arm and prepare and train teachers and other administrators to respond quickly.
Families who've lived through this horror are furious.
I'm done. They failed our kids again. Okay, I'm done. I've had it.
It's going to take more than thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers haven't brought my dead mom back in the past near decade. It's not going to bring back the people that were killed at Robb Elementary School today.
In the United States, Amelia Adams, 9 News.
The man accused of bashing a football fan with a didgeridoo after Dreamtime at the G was hired to perform in the pre-match ceremony. Jesse Gardner has been freed on bail following his arrest this morning. Crime reporter Lana Murphy was there.
Woken by detectives on his Dandenong doorstep, this alleged thug was too scared to show his face.
Are you embarrassed?
Are you?
Are you embarrassed about what you did? Why were you there on Saturday night?
Suddenly speechless, Jesse Gardner was taken into custody, then charged over this horrific assault. Police say the 26-year-old used his didgeridoo to bash a Tigers fan as he walked home from the MCG.
There's a young man in hospital with a fractured skull. What do you have to say to him?
But the father of two wasn't there as a spectator. He was a musician hired to perform. Failing to show up to do Welcome to Country on the ground, he took part in this ceremony outside the gates, minutes before the bounce for Dreamtime at the G. After the game, police allege he dealt this blow, one of up to 8 men and women who surrounded 25-year-old Daniel, breaking his nose and skull.
It hurt to see what Daniel went through, especially to actually see him jumping over the fence to try and remove himself away from it, and then he's been attacked from behind.
I'd like the police to take him along and front Daniel face to face and say, this is what you've done to this young man that went to the MCG on Saturday night to support this cause.
After allegedly running from the scene with 4 men bleeding on the ground, Jesse Gardner boasted online about the great time he had on Saturday. And only last night, live streamed as he drank beer at the pub with friends.
Run up, you boy!
At the same time, his alleged victim was coming home from hospital.
I think it will take a long time for Daniel to probably get over it, and probably to even have the courage to go out again, anywhere really.
Police raided 2 properties across the morning, seizing 1 didgeridoo. Within hours of his arrest, Gardner was bailed.
Can you tell us what happened?
That's me.
Now we're live to Lana at the MCG. The investigation into this horrific attack isn't over, Lana.
Far from it, Pete. Police tell me this is a very complex case, but they are confident they'll be making many more arrests in the coming days. The MCC tells me that they won't comment on an active investigation, but I can tell you that Gardner has been charged with 4 offences. Pete, he's facing more than 15 years behind bars. He returns to court in December.
Lana Murphy reporting. Police are hunting the owner of 2 off-leash pit bulls which savagely killed a beloved family dog on a popular walking track in the city's north. Peter was minding Kevy, a cavoodle, at the time of the attack, the 30-year-old putting his body on the line to save the pup. Mimi Becker reports.
Peter and wife Honey are distraught after their beloved dog Kevy was viciously mauled to death on an afternoon walk. Bloodied clothes and his collar, now a painful reminder.
Judging from all that blood as well, I honestly don't even know if that was mine or Kevy's. It's heartbreaking.
The 15-year-old cavoodle stood no chance, attacked from behind by 2 stocky dogs, thought to be black and white pit bulls. Patrick risked his life for the pup who he was dog-sitting at the time. But sadly, Kevy passed away in his arms on the Moonee Ponds Creek Trail last Thursday.
And I dropped to the ground to cover Kevy with my whole body. I could feel them biting me on my shoulder, my legs.
The 30-year-old had to be taken to hospital with multiple bite marks and scratches, while the other dog's owner didn't help or provide their details, instead walking away.
He didn't say anything. Like, the only thing he had said in that ordeal was stop to his dogs.
Officers now searching for the man who did leave this duct-taped stick behind. He's been described as of Middle Eastern appearance, 175 centimetres tall, in his late 30s with short dark hair, and was wearing a brown jacket at the time.
To also not stay on scene and render any assistance to the victim or his dog it's just unacceptable behaviour.
The family aren't giving up hope that they'll find the dogs and the owner responsible. They say they're putting up flyers so the community can keep an eye out, but ultimately they want the owner to hand themselves in.
Honestly, just want justice.
Mimi Becker, 9 News.
A crane driver has been rescued from his vehicle after he suddenly fell ill at the controls. The man was working on a Windsor construction site when he suffered vertigo as a result of an ear infection. The high-angle rescue team assisted the man to safety. A grieving widow says it broke her heart to witness Victoria's hospital delays firsthand. Janice Rowe was forced to wait in a hallway for hours with her dying husband, while paramedics battled their way through more Code Orange chaos. State political reporter Mark Santomartino.
Flowers are spread throughout Jan's Vermont home in memory of her loving husband.
I tell you, our health system, we can be ashamed of it.
Bob Rowe died on Sunday with lung cancer. Barely a week earlier, the 82-year-old was brought to Box Hill Hospital, where he lay on a gurney for 6 hours, waiting to be assessed for palliative care.
There was a sea of people and faces. It was like a football crowd. There were people sitting in the rain under a tent. It's no good saying it's fixed. It isn't fixed.
11 ambulances were ramped outside the hospital this morning, a symptom of a broader problem that saw patients queuing in car parks this week outside Sunshine's emergency department.
The aged care issue has predated COVID. The lack of support for people with mental health has predated COVID. All those things have a flow-on effect to ambulance ramping and ambulance resourcing.
Ambulance Victoria has been declaring a code orange 2 or 3 times a week and did again last night.
We can tell you this is not just a COVID-related problem.
No, I've never made any such claim. Oh, I thought this was a serious matter of life and death. It's a laugh now. It's a laugh now.
Every day, more than 1,000 healthcare workers are calling in sick. With flu on the rise and COVID cases stubbornly high, there's no guarantee Victoria will scrap the pandemic declaration this July.
We'll be doing nothing that would make the job of our nurses harder. And I don't think Victorians would want us to.
Really what they should be looking at is the last 2 or 3 decades of underinvestment in our health system.
A $12 billion COVID repair plan is underway, but it's little comfort to Jan.
Money's being spent in the wrong places, obviously.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
The state government is looking for a new boss of the Westgate Tunnel project, with current CEO Peter Samet stepping down from the role. Samet's departing after 6 years, but the Premier insists his decision will have no further impact on the troubled project.
There'll be no impact on the project. We hope that at some point in the future he can be back and can play a role in other parts of our big build.
The project's slated to be finished in 2025. An alleged serial wedding crasher has been charged with raiding wishing wells at 8 nuptials across Melbourne. Police say he pocketed thousands of dollars before the wedding industry helped track him down. Adam Hegarty with this exclusive report.
Poking his head out and suited up as a guest, Melbourne's accused wedding crasher. Though this is no Hollywood movie. He didn't charm these Brunswick nuptials. Instead, it's alleged he raided the wishing well lockbox, swiping thousands of dollars, even writing in the guest book.
It was the best wedding that he'd apparently ever attended, and he was feeling awesome and lucky on the night. 3/4 of our wishing well was missing.
So the wedding industry moonlit as detectives, sharing his image before he was spotted by wedding planner Jasmine at her sister-in-law's Hawthorn wedding, days later, on Sunday.
Heavy Macedonian wedding definitely didn't blend in. My dad then did put him in a bit of a headlock to make sure he didn't try and escape before I could have a chat with the venue manager to get him to put him into a room.
Police arresting, then charging him over thefts at 8 venues in 2 months. Brunswick, Brunswick East, Fitzroy, Ripponlea and Hawthorn. The total loot, cash, jewellery and gift cards, worth $16,000. What the cameras don't show is the lockbox was being held in this room where it was effectively being guarded by a guest. Police allege the 24-year-old waited for that person to leave before prying it open.
We definitely felt really violated, mingling with people. He was downstairs drinking in the bar, and we had no idea that he was there.
Adam Hegarty, 9 News.
Now to preview tonight's sport, Tony Jones.
Thanks, Pete. Good evening. Eddie Maguire will join us live to sift through the problem that is North Melbourne. Also tonight, calls from Kane Corns for Paddy Dangerfield to lose weight are starting to ring true.
Look, there is some relevance to it, absolutely.
The Tigers coach with serious concerns over the immediate playing future of a premiership star. Bevo digs in over his cryptic defence of a key forward. Demonor gives the French crowd a real backhander. And why things are looking up for Dallas, but not Miami. That's all coming up a little later in Sport, Pete.
OK, thank you, Tony. Squatters remain unaccounted for following the Goldfingers inferno. Here's Reid Butler.
Pete, crews are sifting through the rubble for human remains as new witnesses come forward. I'll have the latest next.
Plus, Peter Dutton set to take over the Liberal Party leadership, and Meghan Markle's sister takes aim after her father suffers a stroke. The painstaking search for human remains inside the fire-ravaged Goldfinger strip club continues tonight. Crews spent the afternoon carefully sifting through what's left of the most damaged parts of the building. Reid Butler with the latest.
Brick by brick, part of the old Goldfinger strip club is torn down. The facade of the middle building crashing onto Lonsdale Street. The force of impact felt at least 20 metres away. It had been too dangerous to access, but today the grim search for bodies could begin.
Being that it is a squat, people come and go and we have no control over who stayed there on the night and what the circumstances for them being there are.
Crews taking photos from a cherry picker and a large drone filming the site from the sky. This isn't a demolition, it is a careful dismantling. Careful because the remains of that building likely hold the answers to two incredibly important questions. One, was anyone inside? And two, what started this fire?
We have to do it methodically and out of respect for people that may be left behind.
The blaze is considered suspicious. The woman who called 000 on the night told Nine she'd seen someone throwing burning objects out the window before flames engulfed the building.
It didn't just go up in a moment's notice, someone was in there, up to no good.
Salvage crews will return to the site tomorrow.
And Reed's at the scene. Reed, have any remains been found?
No, Pete, which is promising, but there is still a lot of rubble to go through. How it's been working this evening is that excavators have been pulling piles of that debris out here onto Lonsdale Street. Police then sift through it, give it the all clear. It's then removed, taken away as rubbish. Hopefully tomorrow we will have some definitive answers. Pete?
OK, thank you, Reed Butler. Australians have been warned the economic situation will only worsen with power bills set to leap from July. It could cause an early headache for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who's returning from the Quad Summit in Japan. Political reporter Jonathan Kersley.
The new Prime Minister has new mates.
Permission to call Prime Minister Albanese by his first name, Anthony. I would like to congratulate you.
While his first summit is done, the challenge from a more aggressive China will endure.
The Quad Leaders Summit represents our common purpose in support of democracy, in support of peace and security in the region.
Security shaken by a deal China signed with the Solomon Islands. Tomorrow, Beijing's foreign minister will visit the Pacific Island nation, then 7 other countries in the region, including Papua New Guinea, in just 10 days. Beijing says it's about closer communication, urging the Quad leaders not to see China through tinted glasses. Australia's response?
Making sure that we reach out to other countries.
New Foreign Minister Penny Wong will make a dash to Fiji tomorrow and other Pacific nations in the weeks ahead as Prime Minister Albanese heads home to domestic concerns around the economy.
The fiscal situation we're inheriting is dire.
The new money man meeting the Reserve Bank Governor and Treasury Secretary.
All of us collectively have got no shortage of challenges to be working on.
Warning of higher interest rates, greater pressures on cost of living, even more expensive power bills from July, and suggesting the nation's accounts could be worse than first thought.
Pressures on the budget which were not disclosed or booked by the previous government.
While the new government grapples with the economic problems, the previous government is soul-searching after the election loss, and Peter Dutton appears all but assured of being the next Liberal leader.
There is no one else who is putting their hand up to contest the leadership. So it will be Peter.
The man he would replace, Scott Morrison, preparing to adjust to a new life back home in the Shire. Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Meghan Markle's father, Thomas, is in a US hospital recovering from a stroke which has robbed him of his speech. He was only days away from travelling to London to appear in a TV special during the Queen's Jubilee. Meghan's sister Samantha has appealed for privacy, ending her statement with a swipe at the Duchess, saying, "It's a travesty how much he's been tortured and how much he's had to go through thanks to my sister's disregard the past few years. That is unforgivable." Melbourne Zoo's otters are being kept in top physical condition with some specialised high-performance training. The fleet-footed creatures undergo the training twice a day, running from one side of their enclosure to the other before getting a well-earned treat. Visitors were invited to watch the unique routine today as part of World Otter Day. Lavinia's along now. Quite warm again today, Lavinia.
It was, Pete. Another very pleasant late autumn day. Despite a rather chilly overnight low of 7.4, the city peaked at 19.6 early this afternoon, and that's 3 degrees higher than we'd expect for this time of the year. Showers are approaching from the west. They crossed the western border this afternoon, but there's only been a millimetre or two so far. The showers should reach the city between 7 and 8 tomorrow morning. We're not expecting anything too heavy, and Victoria could do with some decent showers. With only a week left of May, much of the state, the orange and brown areas, have recorded less than 40% of the monthly average. The city's only had 10 millimetres and we'd expect 56. Tomorrow's showers will only make a slight dent in that total, but we have a stronger system in the forecast, and that will really plunge us directly into winter, Pete.
OK, thank you, Lavinia. When 9 News returns, flu jab push. Doctors and pharmacists call for free vaccines to better protect Victorians this winter. Breaking news on a major power outage. More than 80 traffic lights affected. Plus, the hunt for a predator who assaulted a young woman on a bus from Broadmeadows. And the cardboard police car that convinced drivers to slow down. We have breaking news for you. Crews are right now scrambling to fix an unplanned power outage affecting the inner northwestern suburbs. More than 17,000 homes in the area have gone dark, while street lights are out and traffic lights are on flash at more than 80 intersections. Affected areas include Moonee Ponds, Essendon, Flemington, Ascot Vale, Maribyrnong and Braybrook. Police are hunting a creep who sexually assaulted a 20-year-old woman on a bus in the city's northwest. Police say this man touched the woman inappropriately on a bus travelling from Broadmeadows to Essendon earlier this month. Anyone who recognises him should call police. Free flu jabs could be rolled out across Victoria if doctors and pharmacists desperate to boost protection get their way. The push to copy Queensland's approach is building, with new research showing 27% of parents can't afford the cost. Stephanie Anderson with more.
Rolling up for a flu shot is all about reducing risk for Erin Lisk and her kids.
Quite terrifying, like the prospect of getting COVID and flu at the same time.
But a new study by paediatric specialists has confirmed not all parents are on the same page.
We found only half of Australian kids are likely to be vaccinated for flu this year.
1 in 3 mums and dads say they aren't aware healthy kids can be hit hard by the illness, while others are just sick of hearing about vaccines. Then there's those who didn't know it's safe to immunise against COVID and influenza at the same time.
The flu vaccine is the most effective way we have of protecting children against flu. It will reduce the chances of catching the flu in the first place, and it will also reduce the chances of serious illness.
There's already been close to 12,000 influenza cases recorded in Victoria this year, but the vaccination take-up is only around 12% for kids aged under 5, 18.2% for those between 5 and 64, and 62% for Victorians over 65 years old.
Times are tough, petrol prices are going up, food prices are going up, families are struggling. Making the flu vaccine free will almost certainly make a difference to the rates of uptake.
We're working with the Pharmacy Guild and the AMA on that very issue. It's just about, can it be done? If so, how would it be done?
Don't wait for a potential government scheme. The best way to protect yourself is to get vaccinated.
Steph joins me live from South Wharf. And Steph, the COVID vaccine advice has been updated.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. ATAGI has expanded its list of people that it's recommending to go and get a 4th COVID vaccine or a second booster ahead of winter. It now includes Australians aged 16 to 64 living with medical conditions like cancer or chronic lung disease, and also those living with a disability that results in complex health needs. Now, the government believes that around 1.5 million additional Australians will now be eligible for that shot, and they should be going to get their 4th vaccine at least 4 months after their 3rd. Important to note, nobody else is eligible at this stage, so if you need to go through the details of who should or shouldn't be getting these shots, the best spot to visit is the federal government's health department website. Pete?
OK, thank you, Steph. Stephanie Anderson at South Wharf. Russia's opposition leader Alexei Navalny will remain in prison after losing his appeal against a 9-year sentence for fraud. Appearing via video link in a Moscow court, the outspoken Kremlin critic said the country's war in Ukraine was built entirely on lies. He'll now be transferred to a high-security prison. The horrors of the Russian assault on Mariupol are still being uncovered. As many as 200 bodies have been found in the basement of a high-rise building.
And everywhere is smell of death. And really, a smell of the fire, smell of the smoke, and smell of the death.
It comes as Russia steps up its efforts to steal the country's grain reserves, with disastrous consequences for the world's food supply. It's just a piece of cardboard, but this 3D cutout of a police patrol car has slowed traffic at roadworks in Spain. It was positioned in a lane closed down for road improvements. But police weren't impressed, and the signage company that made it is now under investigation. Next in 9 News, self-pay surgery, how you can skip Melbourne's growing wait lists. Plus, bigger seats and more entertainment. The first glimpse inside the future of budget air travel. And the jaw-dropping price for this heritage Victorian number plate. A new option to pay for surgery up front in one all-inclusive bill is now being offered at Melbourne hospitals. Patients say it's brought back their quality of life, getting them off public waiting lists without private health insurance. Penelope Learsh explains.
72-year-old Yvonne Begbie is back on her feet, her life changed by a hip replacement.
It was getting to the stage I couldn't walk. I'm so happy.
The Begbies have no private health insurance and would have waited years as public patients. Instead, Yvonne and her husband opted for self-pay surgery, using money from super for the nearly $30,000 operation.
We just decided that at least having some sort of life back would be better than having that money.
Self-pay surgery is offered by Healthy Care at a number of Victorian hospitals, allowing patients like Yvonne to skip the queue at a set price without chasing up quotes for surgeons, anaesthetists and a hospital stay.
We've put together a price that includes every single step along that process.
And should anything unforeseen occur and additional care is required during their stay, the hospital absorbs those fees.
The growth of self-pay surgery shows the demand for elective procedures, but patients are being warned to speak with their GP and compare costs, as well as checking how long their wait would be in the public system.
The government and through the public health system should be providing such that there isn't a need for this type of service.
But Yvonne couldn't be happier she took the step when she did.
I got my life back. That's what it did.
Penelope Learsh, 9 News.
To finance now, and the ASX lost some early gains but recovered well to finish 0.5% up. Gains were driven by the big four banks and supermarket giants Coles and Woolies. The Australian dollar remained steady. A glimpse tonight at the future of air travel with a new type of aircraft arriving in Australia. Jetstar has unveiled the Airbus Neo, which the airline claims offers more cabin space and better fuel efficiency. Kate Creedon reports.
In this aircraft hangar in Germany, the newest planes in the Jetstar fleet are being assembled. The Airbus A321LR is not only longer than the older A320s, it's 15% more fuel efficient.
15% less fuel per seat, and that is great for the business and the environment.
The 232 seats are wider and fitted with the latest in in-flight entertainment. There's almost double the overhead storage space, and they're 50% quieter in flight. The aircraft will also be the first to debut a new look for the airline, its tail and underbelly in distinctive Jetstar orange with branded wingtips. The updated paint job uses a longer-lasting formula which weighs about 30% less, helping save on fuel. A big plus when the price of jet fuel is sky high.
We will still have really competitive fares in market. The great sales that Jetstar's known for will continue to have those, even though fuel prices are higher.
Passengers will be flying Airbus Neos for decades to come. Jetstar's ordered 109, with the first 38 to be delivered over the next 7 years, replacing some of the older aircraft in the fleet. To start, the new aircraft will mostly fly popular domestic routes, with the extra long-range Neos likely to take over some international destinations, including flights to Japan and into Southeast Asia. Kate Creedon, 9 News.
A rare two-digit Victorian number plate has sold at auction for an eye-watering amount. The heritage plate, which displays Vic 14, fetched just under $2.4 million. Shannon's auction house says there were at least 4 or 5 people bidding for the coveted item, which set a new record for a heritage plate sold in Victoria. Tony Jones, one question. How much did you pay for TJ9?
Yeah. I don't know. Don't know about that one, Pete. I'm not even sure if it exists. But if it does, we've just doubled the value of it. Good on you, Pete. Thanks for that. North Melbourne's unusual response to its staff crisis. Eddie Maguire's take on the situation at Arden Street. Also, Patrick Dangerfield all but agrees with Kane Cornes that he needs to lose weight. Bevo still leaves everyone in the dark over those Norton comments. And the basketball dribble that just didn't stop. Western Bulldogs coach Luke Beveridge isn't backing away from his cryptic post-game comments regarding forward Aaron Norton, but Bevo does agree the treatment wasn't bad enough to warrant a formal complaint to the AFL. Ed Woolley reports.
Luke Beveridge has probably spent more time with his media team than he'd like this season. Again today, there was a little explaining to do.
I've got 2 rules in my press conference. The number 1 rule is never throw your own players under the bus.
It follows those cryptic post-game comments regarding Aaron Norton.
Yeah, I've got to be really careful here. He's been so dominant. And then, there are reasons why he wasn't in the second half.
Privately, the Suns were frustrated at what they perceived to be criticism of the tactics used by defender Sam Collins. Publicly, though, they've been more diplomatic.
Our observations were Sam Collins fought his way back from a poor start in the game, and I think that's been well played out by everyone other than the 2 coaches.
And while Beveridge says he's chosen not to take up Norton's treatment with the AFL, he was hardly backing away from that unusual delivery.
And look, there's always swings and roundabouts. Obviously, there's been some commentary around it, but it's all based on what your interpretation is of what I said. And I didn't really say anything.
On the selection front, Bailey Smith is in a touch of doubt for Saturday night's clash with West Coast. He missed this morning's main session after feeling unwell. But Beveridge declared Tim English and Cody Waitman are likely to return. Ayrton Woolley, 9 News.
Patrick Dangerfield has conceded the call by Kane Cornes to shed some weight has merit. It came as coach Chris Scott drew a line in the sand, declaring Danger will no longer be given the chance to play if he's less than 100% fit. Here's Sam Phillips.
With Patrick Dangerfield closer to the end of his prime than the start, the Star Cat concedes shedding weight may prolong his career.
There is some relevance to it, absolutely, but not at the cost of the way that you play and that explosive element of it.
Dangerfield's coach looking to the career of Tom Brady as further proof the theory has merit.
Some really smart people that I know in the industry, particularly in the sports science, sort of physical conditioning area, do have a theory that getting lighter as you get older helps a little bit. I suspect Tom Brady thought that as well.
The Brownlow medalist wary that any weight loss will impact his primary asset as a player.
It's what benefits the team and how you play and fit within that. For me, it's being as explosive as humanly possible.
Scott also drawing a line in the sand. Dangerfield won't return from a calf injury until he's 100%.
And we've just come to that point now where we're not going to take the risk that if we just keep muddling along, he's going to be less than his best.
There are significant injury concerns at Richmond too. A hip injury putting Kane Lambert's future under a cloud.
Whatever games we get out of Kane are going to be a real bonus from here on in. Where it leaves him long term, we're not too sure.
In better news, Tom Lynch has a target return date. A round 14 clash with Carlton.
In great form, obviously. Didn't have his kicking boots on the last game, but the way he's moving, the way he's attacking the ball, the way he's marking has been really evident. He's had a career best season for us.
With no clear threat to Jake Bowie's unbeaten streak at Melbourne emerging, the D's have turned to friendly fire. Sam Phillips, 9 News.
Ouch. Well, North Melbourne is trying desperately to steady the ship after yesterday's staff exodus. The club CEO putting this unusual spin on the crisis during a fan forum.
It seems we're getting quite a bit of attention lately.
which is good and bad. Means that people care and people are passionate, and that we're not irrelevant, as some media would have you believe.
Ben Amafio there. Well, Eddie Maguire joins us live ahead of Footy Classified tonight. Eddie, you have been at the helm of a club. How does North Melbourne get itself out of this mess?
Look, Tony, when you've won 5 games in 18 months, you start doubting even your good decisions, because there's no way of measuring it on the area that counts, and that's winning football games. But tomorrow, I think the coach Noble has got a press conference at 11:15. Science.
Yeah, but is he the man to coach?
Well, he's the coach, so that's
yeah,
it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know.
I'm not down there, Tony, but I mean, he's the guy. I mean, he's around. He's been around football long enough. He's not a long-term coach, if you like, but he's been around football long enough. But what he has to decide is he the right man to be the coach? The president has to decide it, and the CEO has to decide it, and the captain. And you get those 4 people together, and then you say, right, we are a bond, and we're going to go forward, and this is what we're going to do. But it's one in, all in, and no one deviates.
Where is the North Melbourne president?
Oh, well, the North Melbourne president is a new president, and, you know, it's up to them. I mean, sometimes you have high-profile presidents like I was when I was at Collingwood, and everyone said I was around too much. So you can't win either way on these situations. But if you've got a plan, if Ben Amafio, the CEO, is going to be the front person for the club, then you do that. But the coach has got to be out there tomorrow. We've heard from the captain this week, but the main thing is on the weekend, they've got to get out and they've got to fire up. Shinboner spirit has become a bit of a cliche. Yeah. Now we need to see it in reality.
Well, you need to declare a conflict of interest here, Eddie, because you were recruited by North Melbourne in your heyday.
Yes, Tony, I lacked 2 things in my football career. Courage and ability, but apart from that, I was a superstar.
As you
what
will
would
be.
Dennis Pagan know? Gee.
Oh, you're drinking your own bathwater. Anyway, good on you, Eddie. Good to see you. And we'll see you on Footy Classified tonight at 10:40. All right, Alex de Minaur has taken aim at French tennis fans after the crowd went, well, a little feral during his loss to local Hugo Gaston. While the Aussie was forced to contend with a chorus of boos and yelling, the tennis, well, it really was top-notch. He went down in 5 tight sets. Andrei Rublev didn't win too many fans after this extraordinary outburst on an outside court. And a touching moment on centre court where Joe Wilfried Songa bid an emotional farewell in his final match before retirement. We've seen a scoreboard fire halt play at the G, and who could forget the power outage that wreaked havoc at Waverley Park. But never before has a leaky roof proved so problematic. It happened in Dallas during Game 4 of the Mavs and Warriors.
About 15 towels on the floor. The water did start making its way onto the corner of the court, so it was not safe.
Play resumed after 16 minutes, and when it did, another issue.
Look at this. Look at this. Oh, my gosh. Man, what a night this is.
For the record, Dallas won by 10 points, but trailed the series 3-1. A little bit of everything in that particular match. But
absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Now, Lavinia returns. Won't be nearly as cold tonight, Lavinia.
No, it won't, Pete. That's right. After a run of chilly nights, the city's forecast to stay in double figures. It's only expected to drop to 12 degrees. I'll have all the daytime temperatures and details on some approaching showers next. Hello again. There's been some high cloud about today, but that didn't stop it warming up. The city peaked at a very pleasant 19.6 shortly before 2 p.m. Yarra Glen had its second sub-zero morning in a row, minus 0.2, but it rebounded to reach 18. Moorabbin has been the warmest suburb, climbing from 3 degrees to 21. Minimums varied quite dramatically around the state. Omeo was the coldest spot, dropping to minus 5. Bairnsdale had its lowest minimum in 12 months, minus 0.5, but cloud kept it warmer through the west. Mildura only fell to 13, and with that head start was easily the warmest location in the state, reaching 22. Showers moved into western districts this afternoon, but there's only been a millimetre or 2 so far. Tonight, that band of showers will move eastwards, reaching central districts in the early hours of the morning before extending through eastern parts tomorrow. There'll also be a few light light showers behind the trough, so all but the very far east of the state can expect at least a shower or two. North central areas are forecast to receive the highest totals, so great news for agricultural areas, with 15 millimetres forecast for Shepparton and Bendigo, 10 at Echuca. And with the associated cloud cover, it'll be a mild night almost right across the state. Still chilly through Gippsland though. Sale and the Latrobe Valley are heading down to 4 degrees. The showers aren't expected to impact daytime temperatures, with most spots heading for the high teens. Showers are expected to reach the city at 7 or 8 a.m. They'll be heavier through the morning. We should get a few dry breaks in the afternoon. Most suburbs can expect around 8 millimetres, up to 10 at Geelong. Only Pakenham, Mount Dandenong and other outer eastern suburbs are expected to drop to single figures overnight. Then tomorrow, most suburbs should reach 16 or 17 degrees. Geelong is forecast to go one better, a top of 18. The city should only dip to 12 degrees ahead of a top of 17, with up to 8 millimetres in showers. Lighter showers on Friday, a top of 16. Saturday, some breaks of sunshine and 17. 16 on Sunday, but becoming very windy overnight and staying windy on Monday with up to 10 millimetres and a chilly top of just 13. Similar on Tuesday, 13 with showers and gusty winds. And for the start of winter, 14 on Wednesday with light showers. Tomorrow, showers in the city from around 7 a.m. and a low of 12 degrees, a top of 17. We're expecting between 5 and 8 millimetres and the bulk of the showers will be in the morning, Pete.
OK, thank you, Lavinia. And Melbourne, that's what's news this Wednesday. Deb Knight's next with the current affair. Enjoy your evening and good night.